been quite the week. I have to say that I've struggled working very long hours, and just so much chaos is happening within my working hours, outside of working hours. Our family has had a lot of turmoil to face this week, but we're still getting through it. It is also not ironic that today's episode is about the situations that I'm going through. And this is the final series on mental health and how we can think clearly in the midst of our troubles, in the midst of burnout, in the midst of overwhelm. So this is real time, and this episode is much more for me than it is for you, but I hope that you can benefit from any of the tips and recommendations that I am putting out there to you today. And again, as a disclaimer, this episode is for informational and inspirational purposes only. And if you are overwhelmed, please seek help. Please talk to a friend, to a pastor, to a counselor, to a therapist. And with that, we'll be right back to start today's episode. You are listening to the Work-Life Eubiosis podcast with your host, Charleston Edwards. If this is your first time here, welcome. My goal is simple: to bring harmony and balance to this world, starting with the family. There is so much more to life than the 9 to 5, and this show is designed to bring you inspiration, motivation, and practical solutions to bring balance and joy back to your life. Work-life balance is not a myth, it's a choice. Themes on this show range widely between faith, family rhythms, work, and lifestyle philosophies. You will also hear burning ladder essays submitted by our community of friends and listeners who ditch the rat race, beat burnout to pursue a more balanced and purposeful life. My hope is that this show and the stories shared will provide encouragement, motivation, and will provide some ideas that will be valuable to you on your journey to work-life freedom. So let's dive into today's episode. If you were in a burning building, who would you lean on to get you out? Would it be the person who is running around frantic and in full despair? Or would it be the firefighter pointing to the safest exit? I think we all know the answer. It's May, and it's the busiest time of the year in our home. Figuratively speaking, most of the days of this week have been like a burning building. Fortunately, this intensity isn't out of the blue for our family, as it's part of our annual rhythm. But it doesn't mean the long days are easy to navigate. This season is still a challenge. However, because we have navigated it year after year for over a decade, our approach is one of calm, like the firefighter helping everyone to find safety. This is our family's harvest season, where we have to dig deeper, pivot from the slower pace, and hit the fields to bring in the crops. We are running on fumes on most days. We depend heavily on the harvest of this season to sustain our bills for the year. But the pace is not sustainable for the full year. We're not farmers, nor are we firefighters, but our lifestyle has many overlaps to both professions. We are a seasonal family where there is a focused attention to sowing, watering, harvesting, and resting. In this harvest season, where it feels like we are fighting fires, it requires intense focus, longer nights, and very early mornings to keep up with all that is being produced. Our rhythms don't change necessarily, but the pace does, and we have to adjust. Everyone in our household, especially for me and my wife, have to navigate where to pick up the slack. And a special shout out to my wife, who is holding down the fort right now. She's been absolutely amazing this week. She's an absolutely amazing human being and my lifetime partner for this adventure. Today's Eubiosis isn't all about rhythm, but it sets the context of this finale on the mini-series on our mental health and the intersection of our busy lives. To a certain extent, I'm actually winging it. which goes against my philosophy. Should you even listen to the anti-hustle guy when he's in a season of hustle? Even more so, yes. As you may recall from earlier in this series, I'm a deep thinker, and I'm prone to overthinking. I move slower cognitively, and I like to process and connect the dots. This week, there has been no time to do any of that, so I have to roll with it and trust. Ironically enough, that brings today's eubiosis back home to why addressing this subject of thinking clearly is such an important topic to tackle. Every day across this world, we are fighting fires. We are in burning buildings metaphorically. Instead of modeling the life of a farmer, we are taking on the role of firefighters. But we are getting burned out doing this. We are in utter daily chaos, from getting kids out the door to answering emails to jumping from meeting to meeting and going and doing the next thing. It doesn't stop, and on average, we only take 11 days off in America from this raging forest fire of an unbalanced life. So how do we remain calm? How can we do our best work? How can we think clearly when our jobs and families depend on the ability to think clearly while being in a burning building? So when we get back, we'll dive into some practical ways of how we can keep our minds clear when all is burning around us. The majority of all jobs require clear thinking to perform well. We don't have to be a rocket scientist to know why mental fitness is important at work. The decline of mental health is headlining in our news cycle every single day. The burnout epidemic is running its course not only in America, but all over the world. Burnout is a moral injury that hits us first mentally and emotionally. From there, it spreads to the physical, where we lean heavily on unhealthy coping mechanisms. From there, our spirits and our moral compasses are then challenged. The fatigue, the lack of empathy, and the continuous wave of overwhelming negative thoughts, while in burnout, cuts off the ability to be cognitively sharp. We lose the ability to put our best foot forward, and then we check out. Burnout is bad, but let's not always be so quick to avoid it. There is beauty on the other side of the fires of life. If we are self-aware enough, we can see that a season of going through the fire refines us. It molds us. It grows us into maturity, and in some cases, it sets us up to be more purposeful for the next season of our lives. There's a reason behind everything. For those of us who are not in a state of burnout, it doesn't mean that we are thinking any more clearly. Loaded to-do lists, cluttered spaces, distractions, they're all enemies for a focused brain. To solve problems quickly, having a chaotic space or cluttered brain does not help us cross the finish line or out of a burning building. We become trapped. Clutter leads to chaos, and it's nearly impossible to have a clear thought when everything is on fire. But this is where I want to connect the dots, because that's what I do. When we know our rhythms and our capacities to thrive and have a good practice of navigating chaotic situations, we can find our way to clarity, confidence, and calculated conclusions as we navigate the fires of life. So, without any more context or setup, or talking about firefighters and farmers, I want to get into the 6 ways that we can find clarity, think clearly, and solve problems quickly. My list is a countercultural approach to overwhelm, as it takes a less than more approach to make momentum. If you've been a longtime subscriber or follower to the eubiosis, these tips are not new. They are reminders and the pillars to a healthy life and a healthy mind. These are my personal pillars for preventing burnout when everything is on fire. Register, run, rest, rhythm, reflect, and reset. When we come back, I'll get into each one of the 6 R's, the pillars to a balanced life. Okay, welcome back. Let's dive into the 6 pillars to a healthy life and a healthy mind. Number 1, register. This is at the top of my list because it has been a game changer for my entire career. I have scattered thoughts all day long, like breadcrumbs. They are always leading me somewhere. I'm a natural organizer, so every thought or conversation that relates to my business, job, or even life gets out of my head into a digital folder. Some people thrive off Post-it notes, but my go-to system is Obsidian. This application works on computers and mobile devices and syncs up no matter where I'm at. Every thought, idea, inspiration gets registered into this platform, and then at least once a week, I try to reorder those original thoughts into a file or a folder that applies to that topic at hand. Obsidian and similar platforms like OneNote, Evernote, Notion are like the second brain, the filing system for thoughts. Each of these platforms can be customized for the filing system that works best for you. Obsidian and other digital platforms may not be your cup of tea for how you want to register your thoughts. Maybe you're like my wife who loves an old-fashioned pen and paper. The point is to not let your thoughts just sit. Get them out of your head. Take the time to reflect and register, then proceed in filtering and getting back in a good headspace where you can enjoy the moment, show empathy to your fellow man, and be ready to either improvise or be the firefighter in the room. The next one is run. Exercise improves executive functions of memory, focus, and clarity. Have you ever had a flashing thought return to you or clarity, a moment of clarity during a run or a workout? Running can clear the mental clutter and bring extreme focus to something that has been plaguing the mind. When you're feeling stuck and figuring out a problem, running can clear those cobwebs to make better decisions. Running has so many other mental and physical benefits, and you can read more about it in the article that I wrote last year called The Shocking Truth Behind a Morning Run. Subscribe to my email list to receive all links mentioned in this podcast. When it's harvest season and the schedule is overwhelming, do not give up on this practice of running. If anything, reduce the duration. But to get through the sticky situations and overwhelming to-do list, go get your blood flowing. And do this first before sitting down in front of the computer. This really works. And yes, not everyone was born to run, but we were born to move. If you have the ability to move, let's take a page from Nike. Just do it. The next one is rest. 1 out of every 3 Americans do not get adequate sleep. This right here explains why we find ourselves in panic and anxiety. Factors for this can be pointed to the various reasons of raising children or caring for a loved one, or maybe our 24/7 companion screens. Maybe it's the consumption of alcohol, or our circadian rhythm is being out of balance. I also want to continue to be a squeaky wheel in emphasizing that we must drop all stigmas about afternoon naps. A nap is like drinking water. Some of us don't have complete control over our health or getting quality sleep at night due to the seasonality of the season that we're in. Therefore, the best compensation is a 20-minute nap. A 20-minute nap for me is like getting 4 more hours out of my day to be productive. Try it once and make it a routine. The next one is rhythm. As I alluded to at the top, rhythm is a necessity for survival. Do you know what habits make up your household? Do you feel comfortable with the pace of your home? How about at work? When the two come together, aka work-life eubiosis, are you satisfied with the routines that make up your rhythms? Rhythm is all about pace. Be sure that as rhythms get faster in the various seasons of life, that you're communicating frequently with your loved ones and getting on the same page with expectations. Look at the standard routines like family dinners, bedtimes, eating out, chores or shuffling the kids around, and the morning routines. Talk it all through as a family. Decide what is aligned with the family values and then prioritize and reprioritize that list. When the rhythm has to pick up pace for those burning building moments, don't quit the healthy rhythm or the routines that make the rhythm. Communicate and adjust. It goes without saying that being in harvest mode is like being in hustle mode. God made us to be in rhythm, just like the rest of creation. There's a time for everything, but don't let all that time be in hustle mode. Enjoy the restful seasons as much as you enjoy the harvest seasons. The next up is reflect. Brain dump often. Use platforms like Asana or go OG style with the post-it note. Set times for the day to do this, typically the first and last 30 minutes of your workday. Don't only brain dump for the to-do list, but for the things you worry about. This means protecting your calendar from other people for the start and the finish of your day. That belongs to you to process and to clean up the space in your head. This is the intellectual cleaning, but there's an emotional cleansing that must also happen. It's called the heart, and you must protect those moments to clean out the dirty spaces. As you write the grievances of your heart, let your frustrations turn to gratefulness. Have you ever felt better when you got something off your chest? Well, that's from the heart. But do this first, privately, because we must be careful with our tongues. They are sharper than a two-edged sword. It can kill relationships, esteem, and people's livelihoods. King David, who wrote the majority of the Psalms, has many grievances in this book, but in each one, his frustrations turn to gratefulness for his Heavenly Father. Next up is to reset. When all else fails, we have to hit the reset button. But resets aren't only reserved for when there's a dumpster fire. Resetting is a healthy rhythm to practice daily, to assess quarterly, and even annually as an individual and as a family. Resetting is like taking out the trash. When the trash is full, it's hard to fit anything into the trash can. Our brains work the same way. If we have too much going on in the 5 inches between our ears, then it's hard to place anything into it. Information, problems, or even patience. No, our brains aren't trash cans, but the illustrations to help you see the importance of clearing spaces. Making room for clear thinking has to be tackled with your unique combination of running, reflecting, rhythms, rests, and registering your thoughts externally. What's going on up there? Ask this question to yourself often and pay attention to the response. If it's healthy, keep moving. If it's not, stop and do a reset. Figure out one of the above that can help clear the way. Clearing out the brain is a cleaning mechanism that leads to clarity, creativity, and good conclusions. So no matter what season you're in right now, hopefully you found some practical advice that you can take with you here. Maybe you can relate to the farmer and you can clearly see what season you're in. Or maybe you are in a burning building and you're looking for that firefighter to get you out. Take time daily to find nature, a local park or a trail where you can empty the trash of your brain and fill it again with the good and pure things of this world. And when you do this, empty the brain by doing these 4 things. Lose the noise, the earbuds, the phone. Lose the to-do list. Lose someone else's expectations. Lose the demands of being somewhere else by a certain time. And then refill the brain by engaging in grateful thoughts. Engaging in the messiness of chasing a random thought, and then scribble it down. Engage the senses, and then engage the slower pace, even if it's only for a moment. Slow and steady wins the race. Think well and be well. We'll see you next week. Thank you for listening to the Work Life You by OSAS podcast, part of the Work Life resources created by Own Your 5 to 9. I hope that you have found encouragement and a few ideas to strengthen your journey to purpose, freedom, and balance. Have you overcome burnout and found a new way of life? Millions around the globe are still at the risk of burnout and losing it all, and your story may be the one that sparks not only a dream, but action. Visit ownyour5to9.com for more information and to submit your story. While you're there, join the Work Life You by OSAS newsletter and receive additional resources weekly right to your inbox. If you enjoy this podcast, take time to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Share it with a friend or a loved one. Remember, the most important organization in the world is the family. Let's do our part to strengthen it. Thank you for listening.